My mother told every psychiatric facility in Ontario that I was a danger to myself. For 14 months, I couldn't get the mental health treatment I desperately needed. Mom said, "Maybe now you'll realize you belong at home where I can take care of you." Last week, a lawyer contacted me about my late aunt's estate. She'd left me a safety deposit box with one instruction. Open this when Rebecca tries to hospitalize you against your will. Inside were medical records, proving my mother had been lying to doctors about me for 6 years. I'm 24 years old, and I should be starting my career as a graphic designer. Instead, I'm sitting in a Tim Hortons in Ottawa at 2 in the afternoon on a Tuesday, drinking my third coffee and trying to figure out how my life fell apart so completely. It started when I was 18 and got accepted to OCAD University in Toronto. My mother, Patricia Whitmore, didn't take it well. She wanted me to stay in Ottawa and work at her boutique marketing firm. "Family businesses are built on loyalty, Rebecca," she'd said over dinner the night I showed her my acceptance letter. "Your sister understands that." My older sister, Jennifer, sat across from me, perfectly poised in her business casual attire, nodding along. She was 26 then, already Mom's right hand at the firm, already the golden child who did everything right. "I want to study design, Mom," I said. "OCAD is one of the best schools in Canada." "Design?" Mom laughed, but it wasn't a warm sound. "Sweetheart, you've always been so creative, but let's be realistic. You're too sensitive for the real world. Remember what happened in high school?" My stomach dropped. She was talking about my panic attacks during exams. I'd seen a counselor, learned coping strategies, and hadn't had one in over a year. "That was different," I said quietly. "Was it?" Mom reached across the table and squeezed my hand. To anyone watching, it would have looked maternal, caring, but her grip was too tight, her smile too sharp. "I just worry about you, Becca. Toronto is so big, so overwhelming. What if you have another episode?" I went to OCAD anyway. I took out student loans, found a part-time job at a campus coffee shop, and for the first time in my life, I felt like I could breathe. My roommate, Tessa, was from Vancouver, studying illustration. We stayed up late working on projects, explored the city on weekends, and she never once made me feel like I was fragile or broken. "Your mom calls a lot," Tessa mentioned one evening during our second semester. We were in our shared kitchen, and my phone was buzzing for the 4th time that hour. "Yeah," I said, watching Mom's name flash across the screen. "She worries." "That's not worry, Beck. That's surveillance." I didn't answer the call. 20 minutes later, Jennifer texted, "Mom's really upset. Why are you ignoring her? She's just trying to help." But I was happy. My grades were good. I'd made friends. I was even seeing a guy named Chris from my typography class. Everything felt possible. Then, midway through my second year, I got sick. Nothing serious, just a bad flu that knocked me out for a week. I missed classes, fell behind on a major project, and made the mistake of calling my mother when I was feeling particularly miserable. She arrived in Toronto 6 hours later. "You can't take care of yourself," she said, standing in our tiny apartment, surveying the dishes in the sink and my unmade bed with obvious disapproval. "Look at this place. Look at you." "It's just the flu, Mom. I'll be fine in a few days." "You're coming home." "No, I'm not." That's when her expression changed. The concern melted away, replaced by something cold and calculating. "Rebecca, I've been patient. I've let you have your little adventure. But this is getting ridiculous. You're clearly not well." "It's the flu." "Is it?" She tilted her head. "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're falling apart. Not eating properly, not sleeping, probably not taking your medication." "I don't take medication. I never needed medication." "That's not what Dr. Reeves said." "Doctor." Reeves was our family doctor. I hadn't seen him in 2 years. "What are you talking about?" Mom sighed, pulling out her phone. "I didn't want to tell you this, but he's been concerned. We've been discussing your mental health, and he thinks you might need more support than you're getting." My blood ran cold. "You've been talking to my doctor? About me? Without me? I'm your mother. I have a right to be informed. I'm 19 years old." You have no right. Don't raise your voice at me, Rebecca. This is exactly what I'm talking about. This instability. I should have fought harder. I should have called a lawyer or looked up patient privacy laws. But I was sick, exhausted, and somewhere deep down, that old fear from high school crept back in. What if she was right? What if I was falling apart? I withdrew from OCAD 2 weeks later. Moving back home felt like stepping into a trap. Mom was all smiles and I told you so looks, setting me up in my old bedroom, talking about how I could work part-time at the firm while I got myself together. Just until you're feeling better, she promised. Then we'll figure out what's next. But the weeks turned into months, and what's next never came. Working at Mom's firm was suffocating. She monitored everything where I went, who I talked to, what I ate. When I mentioned maybe reapplying to school, she'd sigh and say, "Let's just focus on keeping you stable right now." I started seeing a therapist in Ottawa. Dr. Sarah Chen was recommended by a friend from high school. She was kind, professional, and after 3 sessions, she told me something that changed everything. "Rebecca, I need to be transparent with you. Your mother contacted me before your first appointment." My stomach turned. "What?" "She wanted to discuss your history." She provided quite a detailed account of concerning behaviors, self-harm, suicidal ideation, severe depression. None of that is true. Dr. Chen studied me carefully. "I believe you. Your presentation doesn't match what she described at all. But I want you to know that she tried very hard to influence my assessment." "Can she do that? Legally?" "You're an adult. She has no right to your medical information, and I certainly won't share anything with her." "But Rebecca, this is concerning behavior on her part." I started researching. Late at night, after Mom went to bed, I'd sit in my room with my laptop, reading about parental control, manipulation, narcissistic personality disorder. The more I read, the more my childhood made sense in a way it never had before. The constant monitoring, the way she'd isolate me from friends, how she'd dismiss my accomplishments but magnify my struggles. Jennifer was the golden child because Jennifer never questioned anything. I was the problem because I wanted something different. I decided to leave. I'd been working at the firm for 8 months, saving every penny. I had enough for first and last month's rent on a small apartment across town. I'd apply to work remotely for design agencies, rebuild my portfolio, maybe take online courses. I told Mom on a Wednesday evening. We were in the kitchen, and I'd rehearsed my speech a dozen times. "I found an apartment. I'm moving out next month." She didn't even look up from chopping vegetables. "No, you're not. I'm 20 years old, Mom. You can't stop me." "Can't I?" Now she turned, knife still in her hand. "Let me tell you what's going to happen, Rebecca. You're going to stay here, where I can make sure you're safe. Because if you leave, I'll have no choice but to tell people the truth about your condition." "What condition?" "I don't have a condition. Don't you? The anxiety, the depression, the incident in high school, the fact that you dropped out of university because you couldn't handle it. I've been protecting you, covering for you, but if you insist on being reckless, I can't do that anymore. You're threatening me. I'm promising you." Her voice was calm, almost gentle. "If you walk out that door, every doctor in this city will know that you're unstable. Every potential employer will hear about your mental health history. You'll be unhireable, Rebecca. Untreatable. And it will all be because you were too stubborn to accept help." I moved out anyway. I packed my things while she was at work, left a note on the kitchen counter, and took a Uber to my new apartment, with everything I owned in 4 suitcases and 6 boxes. For 2 weeks, I felt free. I set up my little studio, reached out to online design platforms, started rebuilding my life. Then I had a panic attack. It was the first one in years, brought on by stress and change and the constant fear that Mom was right about me. I was in a grocery store when it hit the tunnel vision, the racing heart, the absolute certainty that I was dying. Someone called an ambulance. I ended up at the Ottawa hospital, hyperventilating in the emergency room while a nurse tried to calm me down. "Have you experienced this before?" she asked gently. "In high school, but not in years." Are you currently seeing anyone for anxiety? I was seeing a therapist, but I didn't get to finish. The nurse had stepped away to check something on her computer, and when she came back, her demeanor had completely changed. Rebecca, I need to ask you some questions. Has anyone ever discussed a crisis intervention plan with you? What? No. Why? Your file indicates a history of severe mental health episodes, multiple attempts at self-harm. Is there someone we should call? That's not true. None of that is true. But my hands were shaking, and I could hear the edge of hysteria in my own voice, and I watched the nurse make a note on her chart with a look of professional concern that told me she didn't believe me. They kept me overnight for observation. The next morning, a psychiatrist came to talk to me. Dr. Patel was in his 50s, tired-looking, with a patient manner that might have been comforting under different circumstances. Rebecca, I've reviewed your history. Your mother has been quite concerned about you. My mother is lying. I understand you're upset, but the documentation is extensive. Emergency room visits, calls to crisis lines. Show me. Show me this documentation. He hesitated, then turned his tablet toward me. There, in detailed medical notes spanning years, was a history I didn't recognize. Ages, 17 through 20, scattered reports of concerning behavior, all filed by Patricia Whitmore. Emergency contact. I never visited any emergency rooms. I never called any crisis lines. Rebecca, it's common for people experiencing mental health crises to have gaps in their memory. I'm not having gaps in my memory. These events never happened. But the more upset I got, the less credible I sounded. They discharged me that afternoon with a prescription I didn't need, and a strongly worded recommendation to reconnect with family support systems. I tried to get in to see Dr. Chen again. Her office told me she couldn't take me back as a patient. When I asked why, the receptionist's voice was carefully neutral. Doctor, Chen feels she's not the right fit for your level of care. I tried 2 other therapists. Both turned me down after reviewing my history. I tried a psychiatrist recommended by a walk-in clinic. He spent 20 minutes with me, asked about my mother, and suggested I might benefit from family therapy to address these delusions about your medical history. It took me 3 months to understand what was happening. Mom had spent years building a paper trail. Every time I'd been sick as a teenager, every counseling session in high school, she'd added her own narrative. She had files, documentation, concerned correspondence with doctors, and now, anytime I tried to get help, that false history followed me. I couldn't get therapy. I couldn't get proper psychiatric care, because according to every medical record in the system, I was severely mentally ill, resistant to treatment, and prone to making false accusations. The irony was that I actually did need help now. The stress was triggering real anxiety. I was barely sleeping, barely eating. I looked exactly like the person Mom had been claiming I was for years. Jennifer called me once during this period. Mom's really worried about you. Mom did this to me. Becca, that's paranoid thinking. You need help, and you're refusing it. Why are you being so stubborn? Because she's lying. Check the records, Jen. Look at the dates. Half of these incidents supposedly happened when I was at school, in class, with witnesses who could verify I was fine. Or you don't remember. Mental illness can cause memory gaps. Oh my God, you're in on it. I'm trying to help you. We all are. But you have to want to get better. I hung up on her. My savings ran out. I couldn't get a decent job because Mom had made good on her threat somehow. Potential employers kept discovering that I had a concerning medical history. I ended up working at a call center, barely making rent, completely isolated. Then one Tuesday afternoon, 14 months after I'd moved out, I got a call from a law office I didn't recognize. Is this Rebecca Whitmore? Yes. My name is David Cheng. I'm a lawyer with Morrison and Associates. I'm handling the estate of your late aunt, Elizabeth Whitmore. The world tilted. Aunt Liz died? I'm very sorry. It was sudden, a car accident 3 weeks ago. The funeral was private, per her wishes, but she left specific instructions regarding you. Aunt Liz was Dad's sister. Dad had died when I was 12, and Aunt Liz had maintained some contact, but Mom had always discouraged the relationship. "She's unstable," Mom used to say. "Mental illness runs in that family." "What kind of instructions?" "She left you something in a safety deposit box. The stipulation is quite specific. The box is to be given to you only if and when your mother attempts to have you involuntarily committed to psychiatric care." My blood ran cold. What? I know it sounds unusual. According to Miss Whitmore's notes, she'd been monitoring the situation for some time. She was quite concerned about her sister-in-law's behavior. "Can you meet me tomorrow at my office?" I was there at 9 a.m. sharp. David Cheng was younger than he'd sounded on the phone, maybe early 30s, with kind eyes and a professional demeanor that put me slightly at ease. "Before I give you the box, I need to explain something. Your aunt came to see me 2 years ago. She showed me extensive documentation that she'd been collecting medical records, recorded phone calls, emails. She was convinced your mother was engaging in what she called medical abuse by proxy, essentially manipulating your medical records to control you." She was right. I believe so. Miss Whitmore was very clear that this box should only be given to you when you needed it most. She tracked your mother's behavior, and shortly before her death, she noted concerning patterns that suggested an escalation was coming. Her will specifies that if your mother files any paperwork for involuntary commitment, you're to receive this immediately. She hasn't filed anything. Yet. Actually, she has. 3 days ago. A mental health warrant was issued yesterday. The police are likely looking for you now to facilitate a 72-hour psychiatric hold. The room spun. I didn't know. That's intentional. These warrants can be executed without the subject's knowledge until the moment of intervention. But your aunt anticipated this. Everything you need is in here. He handed me a metal box, cool and heavy in my hands. Inside was a letter in Aunt Liz's handwriting, a USB drive, and a thick file folder. My hands shook as I read. "Dearest Rebecca, if you're reading this, then your mother has finally done what I always feared she would. Tried to have you institutionalized to maintain control. I'm sorry I couldn't stop this sooner. I'm sorry I wasn't brave enough to intervene more directly while I was alive. Your father knew what Patricia was. Before he died, he made me promise to watch over you. I failed him by not acting sooner. But I never stopped documenting. The USB drive contains 6 years of recorded phone calls between me and your mother. You'll hear her admit to falsifying medical records, calling in false reports, bribing medical staff to add notes to your file. She's been planning this for years, Rebecca. Since you were 16. The folder contains true copies of your actual medical records, obtained through legal channels before Patricia could alter them, along with affidavits from 3 doctors she manipulated, who are now willing to testify about her behavior. Take this to David. He knows what to do. Fight back, sweetheart. You're not sick, you never were, and you deserve to be free. All my love, Aunt Liz." I couldn't breathe. David was talking, explaining legal options, but I could barely hear him over the ringing in my ears. "The police are looking for me right now?" "Yes. But we can use this. If we move quickly, we can stop the hold before it's executed, and we can file counter-charges: fraud, defamation, potentially criminal charges for falsifying medical records. I need to listen to the recordings." We spent the next 4 hours in his conference room. David had a laptop with speakers, and one by one, we played through Aunt Liz's files. The first recording was from 6 years ago, shortly after my panic attack in high school. Aunt Liz's voice. "Patricia, Rebecca, told me she's feeling much better. The counselor said her anxiety is situational, very manageable." Mom's voice, cheerful. "Oh, that's what they tell you. But between us, Dr. Reeves is concerned it's more serious. I'm having him add some notes to her file, just in case we need to pursue more intensive treatment down the line." That seems extreme. She's 15. Liz, you have to think ahead. What if she decides to run off, make bad decisions? This way, if we ever need to intervene, there's a history. It's just being a responsible parent. I felt sick. The next recording was from 2 years later, shortly after I'd started at OCAD. "Aunt Liz. She sounds happy in Toronto." "Mom. She sounds manic." I've been in touch with a psychiatrist who agrees that this creative phase could be a precursor to a breakdown. We're building a comprehensive picture, just to be safe. Patricia, you're not actually worried about her. You're angry she left. I'm protecting my daughter. You're controlling her. A long pause, then Mom's voice, colder. Liz, I've always liked you, but let's be clear. Rebecca is my child. What I do to protect her is none of your business. And if you try to interfere, I'll make sure everyone knows about your history. Didn't you spend time in treatment yourself, back in your 20s? That was grief counseling after my divorce. Was it? Because I could tell a very different story. Mental illness runs in families, Liz. People would believe me. The pattern repeated across dozens of calls. Mom systematically building a false narrative, threatening anyone who questioned her, openly admitting to manipulating medical records because it's for Rebecca's own good. The most damning recording was from 8 months ago. Aunt Liz. She's trying to get therapy, and you're blocking it? Mom. She needs the right kind of therapy. With someone who understands her history. I can't have her seeing some random counselor who'll encourage her to cut me off. Patricia, do you hear yourself? I hear myself perfectly. Rebecca has always been difficult, defiant. She needs structure, guidance. If I have to file a mental health warrant to get her into proper care, I will. A few days in psychiatric hold would help her understand how serious this is. That's imprisonment. That's abuse. That's parenting. And when it's done, when she's finally getting real help in a controlled environment, she'll understand. They all do, eventually. They learn respect. I was crying by the time the recordings ended. David handed me tissues, his expression grim. This is more than enough for criminal charges. The question is what you want to do. I want her arrested. I want everyone to know what she did. That's one option. The other is to handle this quietly, get the warrant dismissed, file a restraining order, negotiate a settlement to keep this out of court. Why would I do that? Because court is public, messy. You'd have to testify about everything, the panic attacks in high school, dropping out of university. Your mother's lawyer would try to make you look unstable, even with this evidence. It's winnable, but it's brutal. I thought about the public confrontation scene I'd imagined 100 times, making her admit everything in front of witnesses. Justice, served cold and public. But I also thought about Aunt Liz's letter. You deserve to be free. What if there's a third option? David raised an eyebrow. I'm listening. My mother is hosting a major charity gala next month. For her marketing firm, it's a huge deal. Clients, city officials, everyone who's anyone in Ottawa business circles. What if we go public there? That's unconventional, but it's legal, right? If I have evidence, if I want to make a statement in a public venue, he considered this. I'd advise against it, but I can't stop you. And if you're determined to do it this way, I can help you do it right. We spent the next 3 weeks preparing. David got the mental health warrant dismissed. Turned out, when you have recordings of someone admitting to falsifying the basis for the warrant, judges move quickly. He also filed preliminary paperwork for criminal charges, holding them in reserve. Meanwhile, I reached out to people from my past. Tessa, my old roommate, who remembered Mom's excessive calls. Chris from typography class, who'd witnessed Mom showing up unannounced to check on me multiple times. High school friends who could verify I was fine during the incidents Mom claimed happened. Dr. Chen agreed to provide a statement about Mom's attempted interference. The 3 doctors from Aunt Liz's affidavits confirmed they'd been pressured into adding notes to my file. Jennifer called once. Mom says you're causing trouble. She's worried you're having an episode. Jen, I have recordings. Of her admitting everything. Silence. What recordings? Aunt Liz was documenting for years. Mom's been lying about me since I was 16. She falsified medical records. She's the one who needs help, not me. More silence then. That's crazy. Mom would never. Listen to them. That's all I'm asking. Listen to her admit it in her own voice, and then tell me I'm the crazy one. I sent her 3 of the recordings. She didn't call back, but she didn't warn Mom either. The night of the gala, I wore a navy dress I'd borrowed from Tessa, who'd driven down from Toronto to support me. David was there, along with Dr. Chen, who'd volunteered to attend as a witness. I'd also invited 2 reporters, one from the Ottawa Citizen, one from a local investigative news blog that covered medical ethics. Mom's gala was exactly as I'd expected. Elegant, expensive, full of self-congratulation. Her firm had raised $500,000 for mental health charities, which would have been touching if it weren't so darkly ironic. She was mid-speech when I walked in, standing at the podium in a designer gown, talking about the importance of family support in mental health recovery and breaking the stigma. I waited until she finished, until the applause died down, and then I walked up to the microphone. Security moved toward me, but David stepped forward, flashing some kind of legal documentation. They hesitated. "Hi everyone," I said, my voice shaking only slightly. "My name is Rebecca Whitmore. Patricia is my mother, and I need to tell you about mental health stigma, the real kind." Mom's face went white, then red. "Rebecca, sweetheart, you shouldn't be here. For the past 6 years, my mother has been systematically falsifying my medical records. She's filed false reports with emergency services, pressured doctors to diagnose me with conditions I don't have, and 3 weeks ago, she tried to have me involuntarily committed to psychiatric care based on lies." The room was silent. 200 people, frozen. I have recordings, hours of them. I have affidavits from medical professionals she manipulated. I have testimony from people who witnessed her behavior, and I have legal documentation of every false claim she made. "She's not well," Mom said, her voice cracking. "Everyone, I'm so sorry. My daughter is having an episode. This is exactly the kind of delusion I've been trying to get her help for." "Play recording number 43, I said to David. He'd already connected his laptop to the venue's sound system. Aunt Liz's voice filled the ballroom, followed by Mom's. "If I have to file a mental health warrant to get her into proper care, I will. A few days in psychiatric hold would help her understand how serious this is. That's imprisonment. That's abuse. That's parenting." Mom lunged for the laptop. Security caught her. Someone was recording on their phone. The reporters were taking notes. "I spent 14 months unable to get mental health care," I continued, "because my mother poisoned my records. She did this because I wanted to leave home, go to university, have my own life. She did this to control me. And she did it while running a firm that claims to support mental health awareness." I looked directly at her. "You told Aunt Liz that I'd learn respect, that they all do, eventually. But the only thing I learned is that you're not a mother. You're an abuser who uses medical systems as weapons." The gala ended shortly after that. Half the attendees left immediately. The rest clustered in groups, whispering, looking between me and Mom with expressions ranging from horror to morbid fascination. Jennifer found me in the parking lot. I listened to all of them. Every recording you sent, plus the ones I found on the USB drive David gave me. "Aunt Liz left you a copy too?" "She left one for me 3 years ago. I never opened it. I thought she was being paranoid." Jennifer's eyes were red. "Becca, I'm so sorry. I should have listened to you. I should have questioned things. You were her golden child. She treated you well because you did what she wanted. I know. And I let her hurt you because it was easier than seeing the truth." She took a shaky breath. "I'm done with the firm. I'm testifying if there's a trial. Whatever you need." Mom was arrested the following week. Fraud, falsifying medical records, filing false police reports. The charges kept mounting as more victims came forward. Turned out, I wasn't the first person she'd done this to. A former employee had experienced similar sabotage. A business rival had found herself mysteriously reported to professional licensing boards. The trial took 8 months. True to David's warning, it was brutal. Mom's lawyer tried everything, claimed the recordings were doctored, that I was mentally ill and imagining conspiracies, that Aunt Liz had manipulated me. But the evidence was overwhelming. 23 doctors testified about irregularities in my file. The employee and business rival told their stories. Jennifer broke down on the stand, describing how Mom had coached her to support the false narrative. The jury convicted on all counts. Mom got 4 years, though she'll likely serve less with good behavior. The firm collapsed. Jennifer and I sold it, donated half the proceeds to legitimate mental health organizations, and split the rest. She's going back to school for social work. Says she wants to help people who've experienced what I did. I'm 25 now. I got back into OCAD. They accepted me with full credit for my previous coursework once I explained what had happened. I'm graduating this spring. I still see Dr. Chen weekly. Turns out, 14 months of systematic abuse does require therapy, even when the original claims of mental illness were false. She's helped me understand that healing isn't linear, that trust is hard to rebuild, and that it's okay to be angry. I think about Aunt Liz constantly. She died never knowing if her plan worked, never knowing if I'd be brave enough to use what she left me. I visit her grave every month, leave flowers, tell her about my life. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if she hadn't documented everything, if she hadn't been brave enough to record those calls, to collect evidence, to plan for a future where I'd need proof. I would have ended up in psychiatric care, probably long-term. My mother would have had legal control over my medical decisions. She would have won. But Aunt Liz knew. She saw what was happening, and even though she was too afraid to confront Mom directly while she was alive, she made sure I'd have the tools to fight back. There's a lesson in that, I think. About the different kinds of courage. About how helping someone escape abuse isn't always about dramatic confrontations. Sometimes it's about quietly gathering evidence, building a paper trail, preparing for the moment when that person is ready to save themselves. And there's a lesson about medical systems too. About how easy it is to weaponize them. How much we trust documented histories without questioning who wrote them. How vulnerable people become when their reality is systematically denied. If you're reading this, and you recognize elements of your own story in mine, document everything. Keep your own records. Find people outside the situation who can verify your truth. And know that being controlled by someone who's supposed to love you isn't a reflection of your worth or your sanity. It's a reflection of their brokenness, not yours. I'm starting a new project for my final thesis at OCAD. It's a visual essay about medical abuse, about how systems meant to help can be corrupted, about the invisible victims of parental control. Tessa's helping me design it. Jennifer's contributing research. Dr. Chen is consulting on the psychological aspects. And in the corner of every piece, there's a small dedication. For Aunt Liz, who believed me when no one else would. She saved my life by documenting the truth. The least I can do is make sure her courage meant something. Last week, I got a letter from a woman in Vancouver. She'd seen news coverage of the trial, recognized her own mother's behavior in the descriptions. I thought I was the only one, she wrote. I thought I was crazy. I called her immediately. Spent 2 hours on the phone sharing resources, explaining what worked, connecting her with David's firm. That's the thing about surviving, you don't just get your life back. You get the chance to help others get theirs too. My mother sent a letter from prison last month. Jennifer refused to give me her new address, but she forwarded the letter. It was short. Rebecca, I only ever wanted what was best for you. Everything I did was out of love. Someday you'll understand that. Someday, when you're a mother, you'll see how hard it is to protect your children from themselves. I forgive you for what you did at the gala. I know you weren't well. Mom, I read it once, then put it through a shredder. There's no redemption arc here. No tearful reconciliation. Some people don't change. Some people will go to their graves believing they were justified in their cruelty. And that's okay. I don't need her to understand. I don't need her apology or her forgiveness. I just need her to be far away from me, unable to hurt anyone else. Jennifer asked if I'd ever consider visiting Mom in prison. Just for closure, she said. I already have closure. It happened the day I played those recordings at her gala. Everything after that is just legal proceedings. You're not even angry anymore? I'm furious. I'll probably be angry for years, but she doesn't get to see that. She doesn't get access to any of my emotions ever again. That's the real victory, I think. Not the conviction, or the sentence, or the public humiliation. It's the fact that I get to decide now. what I feel, where I go, who I trust. She spent years trying to convince everyone I couldn't make good decisions for myself. The ultimate proof that she was wrong is that I'm making them now, every day, without her. I'm graduating in 6 weeks. I have a job lined up at a design agency in Toronto. I'm moving into an apartment with Tessa. I'm building a life that Mom said I was too unstable to have. And every single day, I'm proving that she was wrong. If there's one thing I want people to take away from this, it's this. Trust yourself. If something feels wrong in your family, if someone's version of events doesn't match your lived experience, if you're being told you're too sick or too broken to know your own mind, trust yourself. Document, record, save evidence, find witnesses, build your own paper trail. Because the truth matters. Your truth matters. And no one has the right to rewrite your reality, no matter how much they claim it's for your own good. My mother said I needed to learn respect. What I learned instead was that respect is earned, not demanded. That love doesn't control. That family isn't worth preserving if it's poisonous. I learned that sometimes the people who save you are the ones who die before they can see you free. That courage comes in many forms. That justice is possible, even when the system is stacked against you. And I learned that I'm stronger than anyone, including myself, ever gave me credit for. This is my story. This is my truth. And no one can take that away from me ever again.